Guys, wake up! New world map just dropped. Well, it's accurate as of January 2026, but this is a de facto world map. So it shows the actual situation in the world, not just, the legal borders internationally recognized. Because, um, well, some of you might know that about 2 years ago I tried to do this project myself, but I gave up around South America for two reasons mainly. The Gaza war started, and I shifted my attention towards covering that conflict instead. And also, I got bogged down into all the minor independent tribes of the Amazon that are not ruled by the governments of Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, Venezuela, and all of them. Uh, the guy who made this map did a great job because he finished the entire world, but he did cut some corners, especially in the Amazon, in my opinion. But I can't really fault him for that because I myself tried and gave up. And anyways, I thought let's just zoom into all parts of the world map and I'll give you my spontaneous reaction. So we'll start up here in North America, and I see Greenland, Canada, and the United States are pretty much, yeah, literally everything is united, and I think that's accurate. I guess. Well, I don't think I don't know about Greenland, but I assume even I don't even know if there's like nomadic Inuit tribes. I assume they're like semi-nomadic, but they're certainly ruled by Denmark and like pay taxes and all of that. So I don't think they would be counted as de facto independent. I also heard about some parts of communities like closing off borders to prevent ICE from entering certain neighborhoods, but I wouldn't say they count as independent just because of that. Also, this was probably in late January, and I assume this world map is accurate as of the 1st. That's just what I assume. When I made the map, my de facto world map, I showed the cartels as equally independent as all the other countries, but that was an error on my part, I realize in hindsight. The way this guy made them, like shaded instead, is much more accurate because, of course, the government of Mexico has access to all of their territories, just less access in certain areas where the cartel has a lot of influence, and they really do have a lot of influence in some parts, especially here in the south. That's not the cartels. I have forgotten the names of it, but it's some rebel group, and I'm not exactly sure what they want. If I remember correctly, and maybe I don't, but I think they're communists. Central America is looking really unified. I would have presumed there would be some sort of anomaly, but apparently not. But Haiti is just a mess. Actually, it's more unified than I thought because I understood it as like the transitional presidential council had literally no control of the country. But this one shows it as well, the gangs apparently have control of, it looks like Port-au-Prince, the capital, and about half the country. To be fair, I'm pretty sure nobody really knows how to map it very accurately. I sure didn't. It was really difficult to know like how to map it. If anybody knows, like have a detailed insight of the map of Heishi right now, please let me know in the comments if this is uh, accurate or not. Let's continue. I would personally say that Colombia is a bit of an oversimplification here because it's not just FARC remnants holding influence in the Amazon. There are some de facto independent tribes and a bunch of other factions, if I remember correctly. Then again, this was like 2 years ago where I mapped it and researched it, but I don't think it's changed a lot. Um, there are some other tribes around this area of the Amazon that are sort of skipped, in my opinion. I believe there are other factions that hold some degree of control in Peru too, but So yeah, I think like at first glance, this is my biggest critique. I think the Amazon could be done slightly more accurate, but still great work. And I didn't really know about this. I don't even know what it is in Paraguay going on, but some sort of insurgency at least. And the rest of Brazil and Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile seem pretty straightforward. I thought there were some like semi-independent favelas along the coast here, but I don't claim to know. I also don't understand why the South Patagonia ice field is shown as like not ruled by Chile or Argentina. I understand that they might not be like de facto patrolling it. It's just a glacier probably. But then again, like so are Greenland and Iceland, for example. So if anybody knows why this is like maybe it's disputed, maybe that's the case. Um, let's take a look at Argentina too. No, Antarctica. We have some bases. We have Norway, Chile, UK, Argentina. Is that Ukraine? I never knew that. And also this island seems to be like occupied by various entities. Maybe some international station, I assume. A bunch of Argentinian and Chilean bases around this peninsula here. We have UK, Chile again, UK, Argentina. Sweden and Finland appears to share a base here. I did not know that. We have Germany. RSA, is that like Republic of South Africa? I assume it is. Norway has two bases here. I presume that this means that the United States, like literally has a base on the South Pole. That's what it's looking like to me. I think I remembered something about that too. Apparently, India and Russia are bordering each other in Antarctica, so that's very funny. Um, we have Japan. I assume Bel is Belarus. Never knew they had a base. But I assume it's like remnants from the Soviet Union, maybe. Some more of Japan, Russia, Australia, China, Australia, Russia, France, Italy. Share a base there, and Australia. France, New Zealand, and the United States appear to border each other there. Or maybe they just share this island together. I'm not sure. Then Italy, Germany, and Republic of Korea. That's funny. So Antarctica is a bit of a gold mine of like little known like facts, like who borders each other. That's interesting to me. Let's go to Europe, and I think there's no big surprises here in Europe at least. Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, all united. Uh, yeah, I see nothing surprising here. We have Kosovo, Transnistria, Ukraine. Apparently, South Ossetia is partially occupied by Russia, according to this map, but not Abkhazia, so I'm not sure why that is. Like maybe that's accurate. I thought Abkhazia was also like had a lot of Russian influence, but maybe not forces. Maybe that's what it's signifying. Anything else? Well, Cyprus is a mess, and we have some exclaves of Spain here in North Africa, but that's de jure accurately too as well. So let's continue. This map really shows the fact that Libya is no longer one country. Even this de facto map, like it's difficult to tell how many countries Libya consists of today. At least two, maybe three, and then the Tuaregs. Like this is very sparsely populated, so if I'm interpreting this map correctly, I don't think any real country like has a lot of influence here. I know the RSF are active here, and I believe the Government of National Stability has more influence here in the south because they and this is where my Sudan knowledge comes into play. They cooperate here to transfer weapons to the RSF through this corner here, but apparently they're not like permanently active here. Uh, I don't know what Tubu is, and I don't know what the CCMSR are either. What else? Apparently, the Islamic State is active in the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt. I didn't really know that. We have the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, aka Western Sahara here. Lots of world maps that are de jure accurate, but not de facto. They show all of, well, the entire southern half of Morocco as its own country, but in reality, that hasn't been the case since, well, ever actually, because I don't believe the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic ever controlled all of their claimed territory. Today, I believe it's a big fence in the desert that closes them off. I think they have very minor access to the sea, but other than that, I think it's like, I don't know, like maybe only tens of thousands or less population in the orange part here. I actually also think, if I remember correctly, that their de facto capital is not located in this desert but in Algeria. Mauritania is looking surprisingly unified. That's a bit of a surprise. Well, they have some Islamist insurgents in the south, apparently. Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are just a whole mess. Like, they're not even. Well, Niger is somewhat unified, but I would say it's wrong to think of Mali as an independent. Well, it's an independent country for sure, but it's just as much of a country as the Assawad movement or ISIS. What is this? The ISIS faction of Greater Sahara. So, you know, this is like one of the strongest example when you take a look at the map here, the de facto map, to see that, you know, the world maps we are used to, they do not represent the reality on the ground. And furthermore, you know, Africa is just a gold mine of interesting anomalies. We have Central Africa. How many are there? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 factions, I think, plus, not counting the internationally recognized government. So what is even going on here? I don't even know. What else do we have? Benin has some insurgents. Apparently Senegal does too. I never knew about that. What's MEDC? We have some, I assume they're Biafran insurgents, and also ISIS up here in the north in Nigeria. Known as the most dangerous part of the entire world for regular civilians, if I remember correctly. Despite that it doesn't look that dangerous on the map, but apparently the ISIS insurgents in this part are really bad to the local population, you know. You know the news, you've heard atrocities. Ethiopia is nowhere near as unified as you would assume as well. Lots of factions all over the place, and I assume that's Tigray fighters. Now Somalia is, to my opinion, like strangely unified. I thought it would be way worse, but I don't think this is very accurate, to be honest. I don't think the Somali government has a lot of influence in eastern Somaliland. I haven't researched this though, so don't take my words as gospel here. Then we have Puntland, which is also like its own country de facto. And Somaliland is certainly its own country. Recently recognized by Israel, which was the first country to do so. So now they have an ally here. And of course, all the Arab countries are not very happy with that. But Somaliland is happy with it. And Al-Shabaab is pretty much laying siege to the Somali capital of Mogadishu. Jubaland apparently has a lot of control. Well, not a lot of control, but yeah. And Al-Shabaab is apparently quite active in eastern Kenya. I didn't really know that. Uganda has some problems, it seems, and Congo Zaire certainly does. I suppose you could make a case that Rwanda like has control of M23. So if you view M23 as part of Rwanda, then Rwanda is pretty much twice as big as shown on this map. But I'm not exactly sure how much influence Rwanda has over M23. Then there are a bunch of other insurgents in the east and also the south, Katanga. Gabon and Congo Brazzaville are unified, and so is Equatorial Guinea. I'm pretty sure that the Democratic Republic of the Congo, aka Congo Zaire, is a bit of an oversimplification as well, because I believe there are pygmy tribes in the central jungle that are de facto independent. Angola, Zambia, Malawi are unified. That's a bit of a surprise. I knew Botswana is really stable, and Namibia too, apparently. But couldn't you make a case that the Khoi would be like semi-independent as they're nomadic and in the bushlands? I don't know, but I think that would probably be true, maybe. South Africa looks surprisingly stable. I thought there were some like rebel groups or insurgents or gangs that you could count as semi-autonomous at least. And Madagascar too. I thought there were a lot of trouble in Madagascar, but not according to this map. This is a bit of a surprise to me as well. Diego Garcia is meant to be ceded to Mauritius. Now I knew about that, but I thought that included these northern islands as well, because maybe you've heard too that when these islands are given to Mauritius, the sun will set on the British Empire for the first time in hundreds of years. But obviously that won't be the case if these islands remain with the UK. So is that an error, or is it just like, is that saying an error? I don't know. Oh, we can't forget about the Middle East. Turkey is apparently entirely unified, has control of all of their territories. And even then some in Iraq. I never knew that Turkey controls land in Iraq. I knew they do in Syria, but apparently it's like shared with the Syrian transitional government. I also don't think the US de facto controls this territory any longer. Maybe it was true by the first, but no longer, at least. I'm pretty sure. And the Druze also has their own little country here, what I called Suwaida in my Syrian videos recently. Israel de facto controls part of the West Bank, and if we zoom into Gaza, I would say you could probably add like 2 pixels more here in Gaza. I'm not sure what IRM stands for. It's really tricky to know what the real situation is in the parts of Gaza that are no longer controlled by that are not controlled by the IDF. Maybe it's still Hamas, maybe it's some sort of international committee, maybe it's both. I haven't really kept up to date since I stopped reporting on the war there, so I don't know what the current situation is de facto. I think I would have known if Hamas had left Gaza entirely, so yeah, who knows. Mm, Still some ISIS insurgents here. They're quite weak though. Saudi Arabia is completely unified, and I don't even know what the situation in Yemen is right now. Ansar Allah, that's the Houthis. Uh, I prefer to refer to them as Houthi Yemen, but maybe Ansar Allah is more correct. It all depends, I suppose. Ansar Allah is the name of the group that controls this land, but I'm not sure if you want to call the land, because I would say that it's its own country de facto for sure. Uh, Republic of Yemen, I assume that's the internationally recognized entity, but I'm not sure. And AQ, I assume that's Al Qaeda. It's interesting to see they're still around. Oman is very unified, and so is the UAE, but I knew that, and Qatar and Bahrain as well. Now, Iran is probably not accurate, but I don't fault the mapper for this. First of all, it's from uh, the situation at New Year, and I don't know how big the protests were there, but if it was today, I would for sure say that large parts would be at least shaded as what would you call them? I guess just anti-government protesters, or maybe monarchist protesters. I don't know. Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan are unified. I like that they included the Baikonur space station in Kazakhstan, because that's certainly a Russian exclave that is very overlooked. I don't know if it's this big though, but I assume it is if he showed it as this big. I thought it would just be like a tiny dot, but maybe not. I mean, if it's a space station, you would want a lot of territory around it. Didn't that vlogger Balden Bankrupt break into that space station and make a video about it? Now, Afghanistan is controlled by the Taliban, but it's still not as unified as you would assume. I don't think it has been fully unified by one single political entity since the Soviet-Afghan War. But my understanding of Afghanistan was that it was way more unified than this, at least, but apparently not. ISIS is active here, and I'm not sure what NRF is. I assume some of these, maybe the AFF or the NRF, are, or maybe ILMPA, like one of these are probably the government that was overthrown, that was supported by the United States and so on. Pakistan is looking very troublesome. I think this is the Baluch Liberation Army maybe. Um, Only last week they took control of an entire city. I don't remember which one and where it was, but they they're not they're like on the edge of being like fully colored, just like Ansar Allah in Yemen, because well, they held a city entirely. They took it over from the Pakistani forces and held it, but only for a weekend. Uh, the situation is complicated. I never really knew about this insurgents here in northern India, Jammu and Kashmir, but I did know about this Siachen area. This is not an independent country, if I remember correctly. It's just that neither of these countries de facto bother to control it because it's like in the remote Himalayas. CPI, not sure what that is, but apparently there's insurgents in central India. Bangladesh is looking unified. cannot say the same for Myanmar. Myanmar is I don't know how many different countries. I'm not gonna bother. Like, you just take a look and yeah. Eastern India is also surprisingly chaotic. China is looking very unified, depending on if you count Taiwan or not. Japan, Korea, and well, North Korea and South Korea. Nothing surprising there. We know that Russia controls these islands, but Japan still claims these since World War II. So technically World War II is still ongoing because Russia and Japan never made peace. It's interesting to see here how close Russia and the United States really are. But instead they seem to focus their tensions like this way instead. But I can understand why. There's not a lot to fight about up here. Taiwan is controlling a lot of islands close to the mainland. And I would also say that it's called the Spratly Islands, right? In the South China Sea here. I would say this is an oversimplification and it could be remedied fairly easily because China de facto controls certain of these islands, and I believe several other countries that claim these islands have permanent bases on some of the islands. And the countries claiming some of these islands are, if I remember correctly, Taiwan, Vietnam, Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Indonesia. Yeah, I think that's them. I love that they included North Sentinel Island because even though it's part of India de jure, well, if you don't know about North Sentinel Island, I highly recommend you go and look it up because that's one of the most interesting countries on Earth. Um, and yes, I would say it's a country. I mean, I'm sure they have some sort of low-level rudimentary government, probably a leader or a leading council, but we don't know. It's so interesting. But, I assume most of you know about it. It's the most interesting place on Earth, or a strong contender at least. Some West Papuan insurgents here, and lots of tribal areas here. I can't forgive the oversimplification here because there are so many tribes and we probably don't even know about all of them. Well, for sure we don't. Australia is looking very unified, and I don't see any big surprises in the Pacific here. We have some American islands, some Japanese islands very far south. Interesting that they got to keep them after World War II, but yeah. I assume they're like to a majority populated by Japanese by now and some Pacific Islanders. Lots of different countries here, that you tend to not think about as much. And we also have like New Zealand control of what is it, Tukalau, and of course we knew about New Caledonia occupied by France, or not occupied, a de facto part of France itself. So not even a colony, I would think. And then we have New Zealand. And that's it for this de facto world map. I hope you agree this is very interesting and very well made by iRageQuit06. Shout out to him for making this, and I hope to see more updates of this map. Now, as always, I gotta end the video by saying thank you so much for watching, and please pledge any amount to Patreon, because ever since YouTube demonetized me for glorifying violence, this channel depends solely on you to keep going. I hope you enjoyed this a bit of a special video because I thought this map was really interesting and I wanted to share it with you. You can easily find it by just searching on the internet. De facto world map 2026. Vologda out.